Ignoring Korea's continued calls for a diplomatic solution, Japan today has removed Korea from its white list of trusted trading partners after all. President Moon Jae-in, in an unusually strong tone, expressed deep regret over Japan's quote, reckless decision, vowing stern countermeasures against what he called a clear trade retaliation. Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi echoed President Moon's words, announcing that Korea, too, will remove Japan from its white list of trusted trade partners. Today, we go in-depth on the impact of Tokyo's second round of trade curbs against Seoul and possible countermeasures. For that, we have two experts in the studio for us tonight, Dr. Kim Young-han, professor of global economics at Sungkyungkwan University, and Dr. Soo-young, professor of finance at Chung Ang University. Welcome to our program.
Good to see you. My pleasure.
Dr. Song, I want to start with you. With Japan's removal of Korea from its so-called white list of trusted trading partners, the items that will have to go through tougher import procedures will be expanded from the current three high-tech materials to hundreds of other items. Could you first tell us what kind of items would be affected?
Actually, I cannot count all the, it's more than 1,100 items, so could be included. And anytime the Japanese government could intervene the process of the trading, because as long as they believe that some items could be prevented from exporting out of the Japan. So that is like some hold-up issues that could prevent free or the very, it does not facilitate, at least restrict the trade between the partners who would like to engage in some trading. So that is mutually very bad for the partners, for the contractors or traders. Therefore, to that regard, we can say that actually this work is not it is not effective yet, but however, once it starts, I think I believe that is going to be effective in August 28th, as long as the process is on due day, on due schedule, then that is going to be a really threat, particularly for Korean industry. I think the big multinational enterprise such as Samsung, SK, or they could endure and persevere those ordeals. However, I think the small and medium enterprises who rely on too much on precision and machines and the materials, and then those industries, regardless of the sectors, I think sections that those small and medium enterprise would be hardly hit.
So you said that small and mid-sized firms will be the hardest hit, but could you elaborate for us on which items or industries may be hardest hit?
Oh, yeah. Particularly the precision exact machines that is used to generate some manufacturing. According to the data in the OECD, out of the OECD, the percentage of the import to generate the export items, Korean economy relies on almost a 30.4%. So that means the imported items should be take account of the 30%. But however, for Japan is only 11%, 11.4. To that regard, the impact is much larger. Particularly the small and medium enterprise, they do not have large cash enough to endure. So that is why once the Japanese government intervene and hold up, then these small and medium enterprise, they cannot replace the supplier immediately. So to that regard, they end up with violating some further exporting or generating and producing materials which could be exported to other countries. So to that regard, the impact would be the hardest for the small and medium enterprise. I do not specify some industry. However, it could be widespread in all areas of industry.
It looks like the Korean government must come up with detailed measures to support those small and mid-sized firms.
Yeah.
Now to you, Dr. Kim. Currently, Japan is Korea's third largest export nation, and given the huge trade surplus Japan enjoys from its trade with Korea, doesn't this mean it could backfire on Japanese firms as well?
Definitely. See, the fact that Korean industries are so heavily dependent on Japanese parts and components means Korean industry is the biggest customer for Japanese supplier for parts and components. So it already took 1 month after they took the measure to control those 3 core parts and components, and there has been no any license permitting the export of those 3 parts and components, implying that those negative shock has already started in Japanese small supplier of parts and components. And for the time being, in short term, as long as the Japanese government keeps these policies, we can say that damage is suffered by Japanese supplier will be really significant level. But still, we hear no any voice from Japanese business sector, say, talking about those possible damages, implying Japanese government takes very strong hold and very strong what kind of policy push on this policy, mainly driven by the political kind of motivations. And I understand Japanese business sector understand this background. So probably highly likely that we can expect the Japanese government might take various actions to support, compensate possible damages suffered by Japanese supplier part and components, since their action taken by this time is not a kind of economy motivated issue at all. They are trying to change Korean perspective on past histories, and they are trying to argue that all those past war and war-related actions, including comfort women and also forced labor issues, are not real illegal kind of action at all. Basic Abe's administration perspective is they are just kind of legal phenomena we can observe during the wartime. So I think even facing those quite a significant damage in Japanese sectors, I think they will keep on this policy drive as long as they can kind of recognize they achieved some goal in terms of changing or providing tough enough pressure on Korean side. And if they get some kind of signal from the media, Korean media and Japanese media, that their policy push has provided some kind of positive image on kind of Abe administration, at least they have played kind of big enough and powerful enough showdown in terms of correcting kind of perspective in regarding past history. I think that political drive is the major drive. I think possible business sectors damage might not be considered that important at this stage.
So quite a long-term battle we're facing here. Now, what are the chances of Japan not giving export approvals at all, even if Korea follows the necessary procedures that are required for non-listed nations, perhaps citing security reasons?
Considering the backgrounds of these policy actions and all the actions they have shown during the process, we can say it is highly likely that as long as they are not happy with Korean response, they can take any time, any action prohibiting the export, since there is no any international criteria to determine which is really kind of risky to their security or not. All those decisions can be just made by arbitrary kind of criteria made by the Japan. So we can say highly likely they can make quite a arbitrary decision as long as they feel like.
So there is no legally binding international law that regulates whether or not one country can cite security reasons or not, I guess.
As long as that debate is concerned about the national security issues.
Now back to you, Dr. Song. President Moon Jae-in convened an emergency meeting today, and right before the meeting began, he made some very strong comments. He hinted at some tit-for-tat measures from Korea, saying that Korea has its own cards to play. What are the possible options on the table for Korea?
I think the president's response particularly using the strategy of tit-for-tat measure is a very reasonable and appropriate and optimal way to respond, because tit-for-tat literally it means not eye for eye or tooth against tooth. Actually, that is your partner betrayed you, then I betrayed. Then, as long as they come back to the dialogue, and then we are going to start the engagement of the dialogue. So this is very reasonable way, but however, the response should be within the limit, and controlled response is necessary, because sometimes our response went too far, and then to excessive response does not lead us the optimal or the good situation in the future. To that regard, the current response is very good, and I think that I would like to give you some more bigger picture why Japan and Abe, even though they the grand jury's, Korean grand jury's decision about compulsory labor force and comfort women is used as a trigger, but that is an excuse, I think. What I believe the true motivation for the Abe administration to engage in this kind of the economic retaliation against Korea is to derail the current process that is taking place among Korea, North Korea, South Korea, North Korea, and the United States. In the ultimate goal is to achieve the peace process. But because Japan is totally isolated, particularly during the last month, our Panmunjom dialogue between President Trump and North Korea. So to that regard, Japan felt very threatened, and because they are totally isolated and they have no information, therefore they would like to at least to stop this process, and they would like to intervene, and they would like to be treated as an important partner who should be considered in the peace process. So that's why Japan has started this retaliatory measure against Korea. And also, what is important is we remember the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was not ratified, and the United States has decided to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. However, currently, Japan and New Zealand, the only two countries ratified the agreement. However, in last year, 2018 April, President Trump has hinted a little bit maybe U.S. could participate in these Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Then that is actually some kind of measure against the Chinese one road, one belt policy. So the members who are invited to TPPA is Vietnam, Singapore, and New Zealand, and Australia, and Chile, and Japan, and United States. So the countries who surrounded the Pacific area, but exclude China. And the South Korea, our country does not. As long as the U.S. does not participate in, we have no reason to participate in TPPA. So that is the Abe administration tried to start some kind of a new Cold War, rather than war, new cold economic war against China. I think that is some kind of motivation that is behind the Abe administration ministers and some far-rightist Japanese members.
Speaking of security issues, Dr. Kim, do you think suspension of the bilateral military agreement between Seoul and Tokyo could be a useful card in easing the current tensions?
Well, considering quite a limited policy option we can take as a retaliations, that card might be definitely a possible card we can think about. And it looks like the Korean government will take that action sooner or later because we have real limited options. But to say we should be more realistic, even after Korean government decides to discard that kind of agreement, the possible damage that can be suffered by Japanese part in terms of their real security issues. They have very strong, solid kind of collaborations with U.S. Kind of sectors in those areas. So, well, we should not really expect that that card will change the game structure and that card will eventually force Japan to drop their current action they have taken. But definitely it might be one option we can think about.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kim and Dr. Song, for your insights tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that does it for this edition of News in Depth. From all of us here at Arirang, thank you for watching.